Welcome back to the Fifth Disciplines podcast and in part 2 of my conversation with Candice Seggie from Solar Africa. In this episode, we move away from culture building to measurement, how to turn engagement, wellness, and leadership into real business performance. From flexible work and mental health support to tracking retention and team happiness. Candice is going to share the data behind belonging and why happy teams really do build better companies. For all our listeners, remember to subscribe or follow us on LinkedIn for the latest news and updates. Remember, we always love your feedback, so drop us a comment or leave us a message and we'll get back to you. So let's dive straight back in.
Yeah.
But Candice, I want to get back to the measurement side of it, but I would like to just jump back to the conversation that we were talking about engagement and performance and changing behaviors. So I've seen a lot of companies now are investing in leadership engagements to try and ensure that staff are motivated. But I think one of the challenges is often they'll run these workshops and it's very informative and educational, but it doesn't always translate into action at the end of the day. So in your view, what kind of engagements work or have the most impact? And what does it really mean to be an engaged employee? If you can go into a bit more detail there.
Employee engagement is actually one of the key metrics that we do measure. Luckily, again, we have the software to be able to do that. And we're sitting at a 70 to 85% engagement in any given week in the business. So what generally does get a lot of engagement is anything to do with wellness around our staff, things that they like or dislike. I always laugh that we spent a lot of time talking about the type of coffee that we drink and whether it's good enough or not, and are we ready to try new coffee? But that was engagement because we heard people complaining. So, okay, guys, it seems like you don't like the coffee. Should we try something more? Should we try something different? Everybody votes. We all say yes, and we try it. So for us, engagement can be measured in multiple ways. We do surveys, I think regular pulse surveys, asking the questions, but don't do it for the sake of going, oh, tick, I've ticked an engagement box, I've asked and I sent out a survey. You typically will get very low engagement. Yeah. Take that, tell your team what you're trying to get out of it. Why are you doing it? So we had a huge survey around flexibility. We could feel that going back to work after lockdown was difficult for a lot of people. We had flexibility. We thought our flexibility was fantastic. You could start and end whenever you want. I mean, how much more flexible can you be? And then people said, no, they want to be working from home again a bit more. So we gave you 2 days. We did also then say that you need to be in on certain days. And as we've evolved over the last 5 years, that doesn't work anymore. And there was definitely a tension, and staff members feel safe enough to speak up. And they're saying, it's not working for me. I don't like this current flexibility. It's not as flexible as it seems. And so we did a survey on it. And we said, listen, we're going to be asking you a lot of questions. Everybody's got a different personal circumstance. Everybody's working in a different team at a different stage of growth. Let's see what we can find in common, and let's see where those pain points are. So we sent out quite an in-depth survey. Our engagement was almost 95% on that. The feedback was fantastic. And what we did is we changed our flexibility our flexibility policy. And so now we've got something that is more fit for purpose. And I'm probably going to have to do that again in 18 months' time because it's going to keep changing as our teams mature or have more children or want to study more. We need to keep up with where they're at. So the engagement is really important that you're measuring it, that you are actually being very cautious with what you're asking. Don't ask them everything. Keep the survey quite focused on one particular area that you think may need improving, and then you'll find all the things that are already working, so you can celebrate those and keep doing those, change what's not working, but always get back to everybody and give them that feedback. Thank you. We show everybody the feedback. We put it up on a board. We show everybody the good, bad, and ugly of the feedback that we get, and then we explain what we're going to change and what is going to stay the same and why. And we do that every month. So it is important that the team know that when they're going to take their time to share with you, you're actually going to listen, and then you're going to do something with it. And that really does increase your engagement percentages and rates, knowing that someone is listening and something is going to get done if it can or should be.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose it's also that element, like if you're not doing something about it, they're like, well, why am I spending time on doing this? And I'm sure that giving the feedback also sparks more interest to engage on these things because they want to hear what everyone else is saying versus their own opinion as well.
Definitely. They like to see it.
But what I do like there is, I have quite a few conversations and you've spoken about, checking, doing those pulse checks and saying, is it still relevant? And should we be adopting something different? And I think a lot of the conversations that I have, and especially around, benefits and perks, no matter what level they are, they'll say, we do sandwiches and, they're getting lots of benefits and things like that. But maybe those sandwiches aren't what they're wanting anymore, kind of thing. So maybe it's not worth spending money on that and rather look at a different thing that they can budget that would increase that engagement.
Yeah, we one of our surveys was so interesting. We were going up. It was around perks, actually, not quite sandwiches, but perks. We do hot chocolate and smoothies, but it was around different perks, and we were convinced that everybody was going to want the gym perk. Like we were absolutely
Yeah.
convinced. We're getting quite excited because I think we're all getting fit again, and we thought, right, brilliant, let's send out the survey and see if it does really resonate with the team. And the survey came back and actually was like, no, we're not really that bothered about you helping us with gym and fitness, which I was a bit surprised about. And actually, we want more around provident risk and future planning. We're not doing that well enough in our own capacity. We need some help here. And it was interesting because the team was very young and I wasn't maybe expecting to get that stronger feedback from them. So within
Yeah.
1 year, we'd launched a provident and risk benefit for the entire company. And we put all our
Oh,
time and
brilliant.
effort for that year bringing that to life because that was clearly the most important thing to our staff,
Yeah.
which was different to what we thought they were going to want.
Yeah. That's really awesome though, because I think there is sometimes that confusion. You assume this is what they want, and without having that communication, you're never going to know and you're not going to get it right. But yeah, so Candice, now we've spoken a little bit about these perks and financial incentives that are behind it. But outside of financial incentives, what sort of perks, I suppose you can say, work for companies that maybe don't have a budget for Provident Fund or smoothies or gym memberships or sandwiches?
Yeah. Okay. Great point. Yeah. I think for me, the biggest and easiest one to get right, and that has the most impact on individuals, is flexibility. And so, if you have got an opportunity to do something for your team, I would focus it around flexibility. It actually doesn't cost you anything, but the reward is huge when people feel like they actually have the ability to be flexible. And don't pay it lip service by saying, "Oh, we're very flexible. You can work from home on a Monday." Because if somebody's geyser bursts on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, that's the day they actually need to be working from home. So really be
Yeah.
true and authentic with your flexibility, that it is fit for purpose. It doesn't just tick a box. And then another one for us, especially over the last 5 years, has really been around supporting our staff around mental health and well-being. So we did start very small. We noticed an increase in number of sick days, for example, which is very costly to a business, and it's a good
Yeah.
indicator of where your company is at. We track that on a monthly and quarterly basis. We look for trends, and one of the areas we launched with a very, very small budget was actually working closely with some counselors and psychologists. We went out and chose 2 or 3. We got really great terms with them. And we launched that as a benefit to our staff that if you need any support, you can go and approach any one of these psychologists or counselors. And we had really good uptake on that, really healthy feedback from the team of it,
Fantastic.
really supported them for certain things, especially like somebody has, for example, a sudden loss or there's an accident, then they don't know how to deal with it. So a lot of PTSD help and support. And that really did go very well. And so we've continued to do that. We've continued to increase how much money we spend in that area because the return has been so fantastic. And we've even
Brilliant.
gone further now with coaching because there's a point where internally, as a people operations team, we can't be coaching everybody individually or being their psychologists or being their
Yeah.
counselors. The professional line that we can't cross. So we've now partnered with other life coaches to say, look, this person is now stuck. We don't know how to get them further. Their manager has tried everything. We need a professional. And we have everything from 4 to 12-week programs with lots of different coaches. So it really does depend on the individual person's needs. But that in itself has also been a huge benefit in terms of retention, people being promoted not long afterwards. It's
Amazing.
really had very positive stats. So we track all of that and it helps you can I please have some more money? And because these great things are doing great things for our team and we can prove it with the data. So that's what it's all about.
That's really awesome. On that element of supporting them with psychologists or coaches and things like that, how long did it take, just a sort of ballpark figure, for Solar Africa to start seeing the positive effects of doing these types of engagement?
I'd probably say around 6 months. Not everybody is very open to that, or they, thank goodness, isn't a drama every day. And so we did have to get people through the process. And again, we don't get involved. So we don't ask for any details. We just want to know that would our team members recommend this particular counselor or coach to others? Did they have a positive experience? Do they feel better? Did it help at all? And again, we're seeing it in retention from those exact individuals. We're seeing it in their performance going from maybe a B player to an A player or a C player to a B player. So we can see that there's been a positive step there. And also from the manager's point of view, you know, if somebody's going through something personally, they maybe don't want to share everything at work or they don't know how to deal with it. All of a sudden, managers like, oh, they're smiling a lot more. They seem a lot more engaged. They're a lot
Yeah.
more happy when they're coming into the office every day. And so that's been great. So I'd say around about 6 months. But again, we monitor it over a year period and see where we've spent. Have we seen any improvements? Is the team happiness or their engagement up or down? And
Yeah.
definitely can contribute a lot of it to the support that we're giving.
That's amazing. I'm sure that there are very strong correlations to what you're seeing in the engagement surveys and things like that too, which is really good.
Definitely.
And on top of that, Candice, I mean, you've given quite a lot of insights. Is there any other recommendations or things that you've seen that work and don't work to measure the health of a company's culture? What other steps could companies possibly be doing or looking into to measure that health?
It's really difficult one because it depends on the company or the stage of the company, but ultimately where your focus is, where your values are, how important people are to you, make sure that you're reflecting that in your behaviors. Don't say that our staff are the most important thing to us and then not back them when it comes to things like maternity leave or parental leave, sick leave, support at the office. We can't do everything and be everything to every staff member, sure. But if you can make it an enjoyable place for them to want to work, if you've got managers that have been trained and know right from wrong and know how to engage and really care personally, people are going to want to be at work. They're going to want to give their best. Naturally, that's what people want to do. They all want to be the best at what they do. They want to master what they do. They want to have a purpose of what they do. They want the autonomy and the freedom to be able to go and be the best. So you need to create that environment. And then obviously in each team has its own environment, and the psychological safety in each team is different to maybe a company's psychological safety. So being mindful that, again, it comes back to the culture. What are those behaviors that you're tolerating? What are those
Yeah.
behaviors that you're celebrating? And are you being consistent? Because if you can focus on behaviors, which costs nothing, by the way, you can then really be a lot more mindful on how you are actually, as an organization, looking after your team or celebrating them and making it somewhere that people want to be. Because if they're happy there, they will give you the best that they can. And that is fantastic for business.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's so valuable. I mean, if people are happy, they produce better results. So it's so important to have that psychological safety for teams. And I think also, you've spoken about the effects of effective leadership. So, you know, it's a small price to pay really for companies that do want to get extra support to get their leaders in because that productivity of those teams below them will be exponential
Yeah. And I
increases.
think with the leadership programs, there's so many around. They're actually very affordable, many of them. And it's finding one that really resonates with your business. We have a fantastic coach that we work with who does management masterclasses and then does leadership masterclasses. And then if we need any additional support, it's the same person. And they've got to the point where they tie in with our wording, our descriptions, our softwares. It's actually built into their training now, which is fantastic. So now we've got this consistent message going across. It's not a new fad. It's not something trendy that just came out. It's really consistent. And every manager or aspiring manager knows the program. They start through the management masterclass, they go into the leadership masterclass, and then we do top ups every now and again just to keep it fun and interesting. But it's the same wording, it's the same methodology, it's the same kind of authors that we base the business upon so that we are, again, keeping that consistency, which I think is also very important as you scale.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And Candice, as well, tell our listeners, I mean, for the startup companies, all the companies that are smaller than Solar Africa, and you've spoken a lot about this already, is metrics around people. What would you say are the most important metrics for them to start off measuring? And also, in turn, that measurement to unlock budget, maybe for HR teams, what should they be focusing on so they can unlock that budget?
Yeah, that's brilliant question. For me, We always look at time to hire just because that is a really, really good indication of the support your teams are getting. If you need a staff member, it's important to get somebody in quickly so that the teams know that in a given period, there is going to be additional support, that they're not going to be carrying this burden of a team member who's left for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, overworking, leading to stress. So time to hire metric is a really, really good one. Obviously, there's your turnover, your staff exits. So being quite clear with your staff turnover, what is your regrettable turnover and what are your non-regrettable percentages? I think it's very important to differentiate between those. We've also
Yeah.
assigned something called an exit cost. So when somebody leaves, depending on their years of service, we have a set percentage that we work on, and it gives us an idea of how much that cost us as a business for that person leaving. And equally, because we do all of our own recruitment, we make sure that we measure what the recruitment fees saved are. So we can motivate to say, our team pays for itself and all the recruitment fees that it's saved. Therefore, please can we have some more money? So those are kind of basic metrics, but it does give you a good indication from a business value. And then again, retention, the longevity of your team, how long in terms of tenure, what on average is your tenure. And in certain departments, it's also very good to look down to managers when you're looking at turnover and say, is it a specific manager? Is this a certain discipline,
Yeah.
for example, where we have a higher turnover? And we've seen that naturally in the industry over the years. Engineers, hot commodity, we're constantly being poached. Things are calming down a little bit again. Our turnover is reduced there. So it's really lovely to watch those measurements and just be mindful of them. And those are, there's so many. I mean, I think our list of KPIs is probably 15 to 20 long for the team, but those are kind of just some top ones that would help.
Yeah, and I think also having that information, it's like a basis to work on. So like you've spoken about which departments are performing well, or where's the turnover happening in those departments. Maybe the ones that are doing well, you can go see what is the recipe that they're following that is working to retain staff.
Yes.
Have you also found that in terms of people leaving, that the culture has had a really good effect on retaining talent? And how has that sort of played out with, industry is small and everyone, like you said, poaches each other's staff kind of thing. But yeah, have you seen
Mm.
how cultures had such a positive effect on retaining talent?
Definitely. I think we've had people who've left for great, amazing opportunities overseas or in different provinces or the different companies. And we wish everybody only the best. If that's going to be the right move for their career, we'll support it. But without fail, they always cry. They're going to miss the company. They're going to miss the team. They're still in touch. They come and visit us
Love
often.
those
They're still in
tears.
touch with teammates. Yes. And, the culture is a huge attraction and it does make a big difference to retention. We've had staff members join us from really toxic environments and explaining to us, how their work environment was previously. They said, I'm never leaving. This place is like magic, And I think if you can create that, that is a wonderful thing to be able to create. We've got a lot of pressure. Everybody's under it. The company moves at an extremely fast speed. Not a lot of people love that. Some people prefer a bit more stability. We are very, very quick. We have to be to scale the way that we are. But if you're providing that environment, the people don't want to go. So even if they get offered more money, not everybody leaves just for more money. There's got to be a reason. And usually we always have to look at the management or the safety in that particular team. Were they supported? Why are they actually leaving? It's not just money. And we do exit interviews with all of our staff, and people have mixed impressions of an exit interview, but I find them a really valuable source of what is and what isn't working. And we make a lot of changes based on the feedback that we get from our exit interviews too. But yeah, retention this year is the best it's ever been. And that has been a very conscious effort for the last 24 months. And so it is really nice to see that there are so many things you can do within a business that will lead to better retention.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I think you've also brought up something quite important. I mean, you've initially spoken about that communication and how your staff are more open to communicate. But I think also from an exit interview perspective, where staff are nervous because that's their reference after all, you're not actually going to get the best out of those exit interviews. But it's important to close that loop, I suppose, from the hiring side.
We get told all sorts. There's an element of trust that somebody has to have. Some things are on record, some things are off record, but
Yeah.
we do get told all sorts in that exit interview, and it's for the greater good. We go in we're going in as a lessons learned. We're going
Yeah.
in asking, what can we do? What could we have done? What should we have done? And sometimes there's nothing. And other times the feedback is really practical and it's helpful. So it's how you approach those exit interviews, the level of trust, I suppose, that the person will have with the people officer that's conducting it. But
Mm.
I think that they should be really celebrated a lot more, exit interviews. Lessons learned is a big theme in the industry. And why wouldn't you want to do it with team members? It's an obvious one for
Exactly.
me.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. But I like the, you've also sort of spoken about, people don't just leave for money. And I think, it really, today's age, a lot of people are more aware of that mental and safe or mental wellness kind of aspect because, you don't shut off. It's not like back in the day where you could shut off after 5 p.m. kind of thing. You just get inundated from maybe even your personal social feeds to your business feeds, there is no turn off.
Yeah.
So focusing on that
Yeah.
mental wellness aspect is absolutely
Yeah.
crucial.
It is. It really is. We're very fortunate. I think on our side also prioritizing wellness. We've got a wellness champion in our business. Just happened. She just evolved into it, and that the knock-on effect has been huge. So we are very grateful for Margot and her wellness initiatives. We have channels. We
Awesome.
compete with each other and exercising and showing off, and that's from eating well or reading well. And wellness is it's a huge topic in itself, but it is something that is celebrated. And I think that's again another very it's a free resource to motivate each other by sharing when we've had a workout or if we've eaten well. And it encourages really good behaviors in the business. So it is something to celebrate and doesn't cost anything.
That's amazing. But Candice, you've been provided so many great insights. For our listeners, is there any final words of advice that you would like to share with them, especially if they're growing their teams and they want to make sure that they build an amazing culture and they keep the talent?
Oh, there's so many things, but just enjoy the journey, work with the teams, celebrate them. It really is a fantastic thing to be able to celebrate everybody's strengths, making them aware of their strengths and always playing to them as far as possible. You'll just continue to get the most out of everybody. It's a fantastic journey. I think growing a company and bringing in more people that can just keep adding to your culture is super exciting. And it's a journey that I've absolutely loved so far. And I can't wait to see where we go.
That's really awesome. But Candice, we're going to have to have a follow-up session at some point to go into
Yeah.
more detail.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time, Lindy.
Thanks, Candice. And before you shoot, though, where can our listeners connect with you? Where do you hang out online?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm obsessed with LinkedIn. It is my go-to. So you're welcome to get me on LinkedIn. Anything to do with Solar Africa, I'll be there. So just find us on solarafrica.com or anywhere on LinkedIn. You'll be able to find me and the team and see what we're up to.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Candice, and have a wonderful weekend and day ahead.
Thank you, Lindy. Bye.